My brothers and sisters of Africa, my children of the diaspora across the oceans, hear me well. Today I raise my voice not against a nation, but against a system that has learned to disguise chains as medals. Tanzania has declared a 98% victory. Some will call it stability. Others will call it pride. But I call it a warning to every African heart that still beats for freedom. Numbers do not define liberation. A nation can show the highest percentage of votes and still the lowest measure of truth. I have seen how the world celebrates our silence, how they applaud us when we imitate their democracy, but punish us when we demand our sovereignty. My message is not for the politicians, it is for the people, for the Tanzanian youth who wonder if their voice still matters, and for the African American soul who looks back at this continent hoping to find the courage of ancestors rising again. We must learn to question what they tell us to accept. When 98% becomes a symbol of perfection, beware, because perfection in politics often hides the smell of fear. The destiny of Africa cannot be built on applause for numbers. It must be built on justice, on dignity, on the power of a people who choose truth over illusion. Tanzania is not alone. What happened there reflects what threatens every African land that forgets to listen to its own heartbeat. I speak today not as a president standing behind walls of power, but as a soldier of the African spirit. I speak as a son of this soil, the same soil that gave birth to Nyerere, Sankara, Lumumba, and every dreamer who dared to say Africa belongs to Africans. When I look at Tanzania, I see a land of history, of peace, of promise. I remember Julius Nyerere, who spoke of self-reliance and unity long before many of us could walk. He believed that Africa's liberation was not complete until every nation stood on its own feet. Yet today, decades later, we see elections celebrated as spectacles, where the percentage of victory becomes more important than the percentage of honesty. I do not attack the Tanzanian people. I honor them. They are our family, bound to us not by borders, but by blood. The struggle of a Tanzanian worker is the struggle of a Burkinabe farmer. The tears of one African mother are the tears of us all. But I must ask, and the world must ask, how can we call ourselves free if our people cannot truly choose? They tell us Africa is developing. They show tall buildings, highways, and conferences. Yet in the villages, hunger still walks barefoot. In the cities, truth still hides behind curtains of fear. The enemy has changed shape. It no longer wears the uniform of colonizers. It wears the suits of our own brothers who learned to rule but forgot to serve. To my Tanzanian brothers and sisters, I say this with respect. Your vote is sacred. It is not a gift from your leaders. It is your inheritance from your ancestors who died with songs of freedom on their lips. Do not allow anyone to trade that inheritance for applause from the outside world. Africa cannot be reborn until we separate true leadership from manufactured victory. The dream of Pan-Africanism will never live through men who fear the truth. It will live through those who have the courage to lose power rather than lose integrity. My words today are for the youth, because the youth carry the pulse of every revolution. When I see Tanzanian students filling classrooms, riders crossing dusty roads to work, farmers bending under the sun, I see the same fire that burns in Burkina Faso, in Mali, in Ghana, in Harlem, in Atlanta, in Kingston. That fire is the inheritance of those who refused to kneel when the world told them to. Young people of Tanzania, your nation stands at a crossroad. They will tell you politics is for the powerful, that you should stay quiet, study, and wait for opportunity. But opportunity never comes to those who wait. It comes to those who rise. You have a voice. You have a mind. You have the right to ask your leaders why a nation of such promise is satisfied with imitation rather than creation. And to my brothers and sisters of the diaspora, those who live under the flags of foreign lands, but still hear Africa calling inside their souls, I say this: Your struggle is not different from ours. When you face discrimination in the West, when your voices are silenced by systems that fear your truth, remember that the same chains are forged here under the disguise of democracy. You and we are bound by one history, one wound, one dream. If Africa fails to free itself, the black soul everywhere remains in exile. The struggle of Ferguson is the struggle of Ouagadougou. The fight for justice in New York echoes the same cry for dignity in Dar es Salaam. We are one family, scattered by design, divided by borders, and weakened by lies. That is why when Tanzania claims a 98% victory, I ask not about the number, but about the conscience behind it. I ask if the youth believe it. I ask if the streets feel it, because no statistic can hide the silence of a betrayed people. Our continent has known too many victories that buried the truth. We danced for independence, only to wake under new masters wearing African faces. We celebrated democracy, only to discover it was scripted. We must stop mistaking performance for progress. Young people, you are not too small to change a system. Remember, every empire begins to fall when the youth stop fearing it. You must read, organize, question, and act. When they tell you politics is dirty, understand they say so because they want to keep it for themselves. The day the African youth, at home and abroad, speak the same language of unity, no government, no foreign power, no manipulation will silence them again. Leadership is not a throne. It is a burden carried on the shoulders of those who love their people more than themselves. I have seen too many men wear the title of leader while they served only their pride. They speak of unity while feeding on division. They speak of progress while selling their nations to those who once enslaved us. When I look at Africa today, I see two kinds of leaders. The first are those who rule for applause, who seek validation from the same powers that once conquered us. They measure their success by how often they are invited to foreign tables. The second are those who stand alone, rejected by the West, misunderstood by their own elites, but remembered by the people. I choose to stand with the second. Pan-Africanism was never about slogans. It was about the courage to say no to exploitation, no to dependency, and no to hypocrisy. Yet today, many have turned it into decoration, something to mention on Independence Day, but ignore every other day. How can we claim to honor Nkrumah and Nyerere if we fear to tell the truth they died for? Tanzania once gave Africa a voice of integrity. Julius Nyerere stood for justice and collective strength. He believed no African nation should rise alone while its neighbors remained in chains. He built schools, he spoke truth, and he refused to kneel to imperial pressure. That was the Tanzania the world respected. But what do we see now? A country where elections claim perfection and dissent is silenced in the name of peace. I say this not to condemn, but to awaken. For the disease that infects one African nation will soon spread to the others. When truth is strangled in Dar es Salaam, it suffocates also in Ouagadougou. When people lose faith in justice in Tanzania, the echo reaches Ghana, Nigeria, and South Africa. We are one body, and a wound in one part weakens the whole. My message to the presidents of Africa is simple. Lead your people, do not manage them. Respect your citizens. Do not manipulate them. The power you hold belongs to them. The flags you wave are sacred because they were baptized in the blood of freedom fighters. Do not betray that legacy for temporary comfort or foreign praise. If a nation wins 98% of votes, but loses the trust of its people, that nation has lost everything. Real leadership begins when you dare to be questioned, when you protect the truth, even if it costs you your crown. Africa does not need rulers who pretend to be gods. Africa needs servants who are not afraid to be men. Until we understand that, Elections will remain ceremonies of illusion, and our independence will remain incomplete. To every African leader who hears my voice, understand this truth. The people are not blind. They are patient. They may keep silent for a season, but silence is not surrender. One day, the same citizens you ignore will rise like a storm you cannot contain. History has already shown us this truth, yet some continue to behave as if the old ways will always protect them. Look at what is happening across our continent. In West Africa, the youth are no longer asking for permission to speak. They are demanding a new order built on honesty and courage. In East Africa, the spirit of Nyerere still whispers through the streets of Dar es Salaam. Even if you silence voices, you cannot silence conscience. Tanzania's election is not an isolated event. It is a mirror reflecting a deeper problem across Africa, a fear of accountability. Too many governments have replaced service with self-preservation. They have learned how to build walls around truth and call those walls stability. But no wall can hold forever against the wind of awakening. My brothers and sisters in power, you must choose now to be remembered as builders of nations or as gatekeepers of deception. The people do not belong to you. You belong to the people. When you hold office, you hold the trust of generations. Do not trade it for applause from those who once colonized your land and now colonize your mind. And to the African diaspora, those in the streets of Chicago, London, Kingston, and Paris, hear me well. Your struggle is not foreign to us. The same system that profits from your oppression profits from the weakness of our states. The same hand that robs your dignity abroad steals our wealth here at home. That is why your awakening must join with ours. We must rebuild the bridge between the continent and its scattered children. The enemy fears that bridge more than any army, because when the African in America and the African on the continent begin to think together, act together, and invest together, no empire can divide us again. Tanzania's 98% victory should awaken all of us, not just as a number, but as a lesson. It shows how easily truth can be dressed in the clothes of success. We must learn to see beyond the numbers. We must read the language of the people's eyes, not the statistics written by those who fear them. Let this be Africa's turning point. Let the Tanzanian election remind us that freedom without honesty is only theater. Our liberation will not come from ballots alone, but from unity, integrity, and the courage to demand the truth even when the world tells us to stay quiet. I do not speak only to criticize. I speak because I still believe in the greatness of Africa. I believe that from the dust of disappointment, a new generation will rise, one that will not be defined by colonial borders or tribal divisions, but by purpose. Africa must no longer wait for others to write her story. It is time we take the pen back into our own hands. When I travel through Burkina Faso, I see faces that mirror the strength of Tanzania, Ghana, Kenya, and the Caribbean islands. The faces of people who have lost much but still believe in the sunrise. This faith, this endurance is our weapon. The world expects us to break, but we will rebuild. The world expects us to compete, but we will unite. My vision for Africa is simple. A continent that feeds itself, educates its children, protects its women, honors its elders, and welcomes its diaspora home. I dream of a future where no African must cross the sea in search of dignity, because dignity will already live here. That dream begins not in palaces, but in the hearts of the people. To my brothers and sisters in the diaspora, I say, Africa has not forgotten you. Your ancestors' blood still calls from the soil. Your history did not begin in chains. It began in kingdoms, in courage, in sacred songs. Return, if not with your body, then with your spirit, your ideas, your investments, your solidarity. The bridge between us must not remain symbolic. It must become real. The powers of this world want us divided, because they fear the day when the children of the diaspora stand shoulder to shoulder with the children of Africa. They fear the day our resources are managed by us, our policies made for us, our dreams funded by us. That day is coming. It will not be easy, but nothing great ever is. Tanzania's 98% victory may be remembered as a political event, but for me, it is a wake-up call. It tells me that we, as Africans, must redefine democracy for ourselves. Democracy is not a copy of the West. It is a reflection of our culture, our justice, our collective voice. It is not perfection in numbers, but perfection in sincerity. Let this message travel beyond Tanzania, beyond Burkina Faso, beyond every border drawn by those who once divided us. Let it echo in the streets of Chicago, in the markets of Lagos, in the villages of Malawi, in the alleys of Port-au-Prince. The age of awakening is here. And when history asks what we did in this time of deception, may it say, we chose truth. May it say, we chose unity. May it say, Africa rose again. My brothers and sisters, history is standing before us once again, asking the same question it has asked for centuries. Will Africa rise together, or will we keep falling apart one election at a time? I speak these words not with anger, but with purpose. The time has come to break the silence that has been sold to us as peace. Real peace is not the absence of noise. It is the presence of justice. When a government silences dissent and calls it stability, it is not building peace. It is building a prison with invisible bars. Look at Tanzania's 98% victory. Look at the celebration, the fireworks, the polished speeches. Behind the applause, I hear another sound. The heartbeat of a continent that is learning to see through the illusion. Africa is awakening. The people are no longer fooled by perfect results and empty promises. They are watching, learning, and remembering. I say to every leader across Africa, fear not your people. Fear only the day they no longer believe you. When a leader loses the trust of the people, no army, no propaganda, no election can save them. The power that builds nations comes from the ground, from the streets, from the farmers, teachers, mothers, and students whose sweat holds the land together. Serve them. Listen to them. Because they are the nation, not you. And to the diaspora, my family spread across oceans and continents, your time of watching from afar is ending. The children of Africa abroad must rise to defend the truth of this land. Support the youth movements. Fund schools. Speak against injustice, not only in America or Europe, but in Africa itself, because your silence here strengthens the chains that still bind you there. We must create our own future with our own hands. The world has had enough of our tears. Now it must witness our transformation. We must refuse leaders who sell our minerals but not our dignity, who speak of progress but never of freedom. The destiny of Africa cannot be outsourced. It belongs to us. Let this message go to the mountains of Tanzania, the plains of Burkina Faso, the streets of Nigeria, and the alleys of Detroit. Let it cross every ocean and pierce every lie. The time has come for us to stop reacting and start building. Africa, the world may doubt you, but I do not. You are not weak. You are not lost. You are the mother of civilization, and your children are finding their way home. So rise, Africa. Rise with truth. Rise with unity. Rise with courage, for the chains of illusion are breaking, and the dawn of real freedom is near. When the dust of this generation settles, and our grandchildren ask what we did when truth was under siege, may they find our footprints carved in courage. Let them say we did not bow to numbers or surrender to fear. Let them say we chose the hard path of truth when the easy road of silence tempted us. I know the road ahead will not be smooth. Those who speak for freedom will be called rebels. Those who fight for dignity will be called threats. But remember this, every revolution begins with those who dare to believe the impossible. to Tanzania, to every African nation, and to the sons and daughters of the diaspora. Hear me now. Our time has come. No foreign voice will define us. No false victory will divide us. And no chain will hold us again. The empire of lies trembles when the people begin to think for themselves. Let this be the generation that wakes, the generation that builds, the generation that finishes what our ancestors began. History is watching. The ancestors are listening. The children are waiting. And I, Ibrahim Traoré, say to all who still believe, Africa will rise, because truth can no longer be buried.